Well, hello and welcome to Unmuted. I'm Judge E.J. Russell, and here at Unmuted, we want to take the muzzle off and talk candidly about the issues. Unmuted will feature a variety of guests, including politicians, community leaders, entertainers, and other community-involved individuals who make decisions about your life each day. So thank you so much for joining us, and today we're going to talk about hot topics. I tell you, it has been a week in America. Former President Donald J. Trump was indicted 34 counts in New York City. New York City. And that is so important because I have been listening to the talking heads, people who have no clue about the local rules in New York, and I'm one of them. I don't know what the local rules are, but I have heard some experienced local practitioners in New York City out of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and they say that the indictment is tight. So we have a lot of federal practitioners talking about what would happen in a federal jurisdiction, that there's no law cited. However, according to those who practice or have practiced on a regular basis in the last 5-7 years, they say that Bragg has done all that he needs to do to have a very tight indictment on the issues involved. And one of the things he expressed with great conviction is that kind of a case is the bread and butter of his office. They do white-collar crimes, and their job is to ensure that the financial center of the world, not just the United States, and New York City is protected from bad acting corporations and individuals who want to abuse the process of business and having a business in New York. So he has made his indictment, followed and accompanied with a statement of facts that adds a little bit more meat on the bones. It all started apparently with the falsification of records regarding how Michael Cohen was paid. And it wasn't just a reimbursement, or it wasn't just a payment of legal fees according to the Trump documents and the records. And it is my understanding that that's how the case will be made. Of course, you've got Michael Cohen, who will be testifying. You've also got the general manager, operations person of the catch and kill scheme with Karen McDougal, who seems to have become more important than Michael Cohen, because if they will attack his reputation. But Michael Cohen decided to go ahead and plead guilty to these similar charges, and the former president, identified as individual one, was in that indictment as well. So for people who want to discount this indictment, people who want to challenge and question whether these are viable charges and that the indictment will stand the scrutiny of the law, if they are not local practitioners where local rules may apply to how you prepare the indictment and how you present it to the grand jury, because Alvin Bragg did not choose to indict Donald Trump on his own. There was a grand jury that heard testimony over and over a bunch of months, and then made a decision that the counts and the requirements required to make that count decided to indict him on 34 counts. We don't know how many choices they may have had. It could have been 50, but they chose to indict him on 34 counts. He entered a plea of not guilty. That was expected. But I'll tell you what, if Donald Trump does not put a zipper on his mouth, and I know the local judge is giving him a long leash, but you know what they say, he's giving him enough room to hang him himself, because he continues and started this right up after he left the courtroom, and the judge told him, you need to put a muzzle on and saying things that may incite violence. It is my understanding further from news reports that there has been beefed up security for the judge, for the district attorney, because people are sending threats. I mean, he's attacked the family of the judge. He's attacked the family of the district attorney. And that can create a situation that leads to violence. I hearken you back to the situation where Mr. Pelosi, the husband of Nancy Pelosi, was attacked because someone had been moved and motivated by the lies that have spewed from the Trump administration even since he left office. So people will act on what he is talking about and what he is saying and what he is speaking, and he knows and understands that he has that power over a certain segment of the population. I think that last time they said that core Trump group of about 23% of the population, they are not going to leave him, even if when he first ran for president he said he could shoot somebody in Times Square and they would still support him. So that's what you're dealing with. But if the judge in this situation allows him to get away with continuing to attack him, attack the process, attack the court, it is going to adversely affect his ability to control his courtroom in the future. In the future, y'all. Because if Donald Trump can get away with it and nothing happens to him, he's not held in contempt, why would a mobster, why would anybody feel like they have to obey what the judge has said? Now, it would be even worse to have the former president of the United States sitting in a jail cell with a Secret Service agent sitting outside the jail cell to make sure nobody got in and did him any harm. But apparently, the former president really doesn't care about that, or he would muzzle himself and exercise some self-discipline. Also, Trump's troubles don't end with the district attorney's office in Manhattan. Trump's troubles are getting worse when you say that the vice president, we're talking about Mike Pence, who has been ordered by the court to appear before the grand jury. Now, Vice President Pence had objected to that, but he has said that he will not appeal this. I'm pretty sure that he just wants to get this behind him, and especially if he plans to actually make a run for the presidency. But and this is on the federal side with the Department of Justice, the FBI, and those guys bringing the charges, and will make a determination as to whether they will indict the former president. Because just because you have committed a crime in one jurisdiction doesn't mean that you get a get out of jail free card in another jurisdiction. And this is on the federal side, where former President Trump had the opportunity to turn over the classified documents. Then there was a search at Mar-a-Lago, and news has come out that he even tried to hide additional documents when they went with the search warrant, that he took boxes and said that these records and documents belong to him. He was president of the United States. He could declassify them, and when he took them with him, it was automatic, without any action or input or review or saying that this document is no longer classified. He just decided they belong to him. So you have that hanging out there as part of the DOJ investigation. Additionally, you've got information and an investigation going on regarding inciting the insurrection of January 6th. That's where Mike Pence will be required to testify. They want to know what was he doing and what was going on in his mind and what conversations had been had between he and the former president about what he could do and couldn't do. Because apparently the lawyers and other advisors who were talking to the former president told him there are certain things you cannot do. This is a man who was talking about using the military to go seize election boxes. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about that, and then we're going to move on to some other things that have actually been going on in these United States that are eroding the rule of law. You are tuned in to Unmuted, and we will be right back.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth, and provide every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or farmers market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 1,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Hi again, and welcome back. I'm Judge E.J. Russell, your host here on Unmuted, and we are taking the muzzle off today. Now, we were talking about the inciting the insurrection of January 6 charges that are out there. No indictment has come yet, but there are those who think the case may be coming close to being ready to present, to get an indictment, or at least to go ahead and conclude it. Either way, it is nearing its end with the calling in of some individuals who may have testified before that grand jury before, and then, of course, Vice President Mike Pence, who has a lot of inside information, and those conversations have been deemed not privileged. So we'll just have to wait and see. But you know, all of these charges and cases could be out there at the same time. Now, I know the lawyers may be able to get some continuances and weigh out timelines for the actual trial dates for these cases if it comes to that. But I would not want to be him at this point. Then you still have Georgia. We hadn't even talked about Georgia. Georgia, where he made the, quote, perfect call to ask somebody to, oh, just find me about 10 or 12,000 votes, which would have given him enough to win Georgia. And they refused. And these were his Republican colleagues. Now, he came after them, and some of them he was able to defeat. But that Secretary of State, I believe, was able to survive even his scathing name calling and those kinds of things. Because that seems to be what the former president does. When he doesn't get his way, he likes to start calling people names and all of those kinds of things. He must have had a very traumatic childhood is all I have to say about that. But enough about the president, because I want to talk about gun control. and the move to try to make some sense of it all. Make it make sense. Just make it make sense. When you have individuals who are buying AR-15s, and I have an automatic weapon that I own. Luckily, I'm not as unstable as some of the folk who are going into schools to shoot those schools up. We lost 3 children and 3 individuals who worked at the school in Nashville on last week. Then the students have risen up and asked the state legislature to do something to make them feel safe again. Well, the legislature didn't do anything, and as a matter of fact, it is my understanding that they passed a bill which would allow you to carry any weapon without a permit. You don't have to have a permit. So you're going to be in the mall and someone or several will be walking around with an AR-15 or what other kind of automatic weapon around their neck. You don't know if they will lose it for a moment. Then you've got other jurisdictions talking about the problem will be solved if we just arm the teachers. Well, what if you've got an unstable teacher? What if somebody makes that teacher angry on that day and they just decide they want to shoot up things? They may die, but how many other people have died, innocent people have died as a result of them losing it for 5 minutes? In Nashville, the individual who shot up the Covenant School fired 152 rounds. Who needs that kind of a weapon in their possession? Now, this individual also had handguns, but the 152 rounds were fired from that automatic weapon. Totally unneeded. The students have marched on the Capitol. Students around the city have left and walked to the Capitol with their protest signs. And then when they got to the Capitol, the leadership in the House would not allow the representatives, the elected representatives now, individuals elected by the people, to even have an opportunity to introduce them. So there were 3 representatives, all 3 Democrats, who wanted to show their support for the students. They went to the well of the House, and for those who may not know what the well of the House would be, it would be where the podium is. And that's kind of sacred ground, and there are generally rules about who can be in the well at whatever time. They didn't get permission, but they tell the story that as soon as they went to the well of the House, they started to chant with the students in support of the students. And then the microphones were cut, it was silenced, and the speaker immediately went into recess. Well, what's happening now is there's a resolution on the floor in Tennessee to have these 3 members totally expelled from the House of Representatives. Now, if that's not trying to mute free speech, I don't know what is. Free speech. Now, they may have broken a House rule, but how many others break a House rule but don't come up on a resolution to be totally expelled? Now, if they are expelled, that will not keep them from running for their seats again. And by all account, most of the 3, if not all 3, would be reelected. But just the idea that because you were a little disruptive, that you're going to be totally expelled from a seat for which you were elected by the people in your districts is almost unthinkable. But I am so proud that the students have stood up and said, do something. Stop banning books and ban war weapons. They're not saying ban all handguns or other kind of weapon, but an automatic weapon. What do you do with it? You don't go hunting with it because you tear a deer to pieces to a point that you probably couldn't even eat it anyway or prepare it for cooking. if you used that weapon? Think about that. And I believe it was at Uvalde when they had to use DNA to identify the bodies of those kids. Did you hear what I said? Their bodies were torn up so badly because of the automatic weapon that was used that DNA had to be used to identify those children. Who needs that kind of weapon walking around on the street? Who needs that kind of weapon just to go hunting? Nobody. So the fact that you have them, the fact that I have one, what would be my purpose? Well, my purpose would be to use it when, some folk who don't need to be coming for me might be coming for me, but have no intention of using it on the street to hunt with or anything of that nature. Now, maybe you know somebody in Tennessee. If these people are expelled and they need a little campaign finance support, maybe we can support them, because I believe wholeheartedly, not just in Tennessee, but in Mississippi, instead of trying to ban books, we need to be trying to ban these war weapons. Not your handgun, not your rifle, not, those kind, not your shotgun, but an automatic weapon. You don't need to be able to just walk down the street with it slung over your shoulder, slung around your neck. Now, the Republicans, and maybe they won't catch on, and I'll be okay if they don't catch on, but there was a blow to them in an election in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court. And the losing candidate took a page from former President Trump. He refused to concede. It even went so far as to attack the voters' intelligence and to say that his opponent was not worthy of a concession. He did not have an opponent who was worthy of a concession. So he refused to concede even though he was beat by double digits. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court has now flipped from red, which it had been for about 15 or 20 years. It is now going to be blue. While they run, like they do in Mississippi, without a party label, they are nonpartisan. Most people who have known folk know which way they lean, whether they are moderate, whether they are progressive, whether they are conservative. And apparently the winner, and I'll call her Judge Janet because I can't figure out how to pronounce her last name, is considered a progressive liberal. So in Wisconsin, there is hope that an abortion ban on abortion may not come to fruition, that there will be some semblance of gun control, because apparently both of these issues are waiting for decisions in Wisconsin. So we'll have to see how that all turns out. But there is hope, and the voters spoke. The voters spoke. So the Republicans may not be catching on, but these are red flags for your next year's elections. And so I would just caution about that. And then when we come back here in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the mayor's race in Chicago. Brandon Johnson was elected, and a resounding, and even though he was outspent significantly by his opponent, he will take office here pretty soon, and he wants to work with everybody. We'll be right back, and you're tuned in to Unmuted.
Welcome to the JMMF's Culinary Kitchen in partnership with Footprint Farms, the Farmers Hands Markets, and funded in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, sponsored by Humana. I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community. Our menu includes salads made from collards, kale, and spring mix varieties, fresh vegetarian soups, and fresh juice elixirs made daily. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. And remember, what you put in your body is just as important as what you put on your body. We look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, you're back with Unmuted, and of course, I just want to finish up on Brandon Johnson, who extended an olive branch to his opponent, even though there had been some very harsh things said between the two during the campaign. That's not always unexpected, but he said he wants to work with everybody, because the only way to make significant change in Chicago is for everybody to come together and work on solutions for their problems. And I thought that was great. Now, you know, we are walking around in Jackson, Mississippi, and the question of the day is, what's that smell? It's probably the garbage. That even though there are any number of private citizens who are working hard to make sure that we're not overrun with rodents and those little no-shoulder kind of crawlies, and the smells and the trash and the rodents and other animals getting into the trash, just making it a total eyesore. There are folk who are actually at their own expense going out and picking up the trash, particularly for the elderly. And they are taking it and dumping it. It is my understanding that there will be some dump sites put up by maybe the city, such as at Metro Center Mall. There will be a dumpster there, so individuals who have the ability to drive their trash all the way over there and put it in that bin, but at least it won't be in front of your house and it won't be filling the streets. And we've had so much rain here that you know, if it gets inside of those bags, the water, it's just going to create a muckety muck for the drainage system and that kind of thing. But you have so many people who may not have the ability to even get their trash away from their homes. So that's a concern, particularly elderly, and particularly in some of our more impoverished areas where folk just don't necessarily have the ability to put it in the trunk of the car, put it on the back seat and take it to somewhere else. Now, I read a very interesting article in, of all places, the Mississippi Clarion Ledger on yesterday. And it was an article by Ross Riley. And he did a quick dive in on the contracts. There were 3 that ended up under consideration in 2021. Guys, that's 2 years ago, 2021. Those 3 companies were FCC Environmental Services, Waste Management, and Richards Disposal. Okay, you got 3. Now, according to Mr. Riley's article, Richards Disposal garbage proposal was lower than his competitors on every proposal. And I say every proposal because within the overarching RFP, there had to be consideration for one pickup per week with no cart, one pickup per week with a cart, and a cart is the garbage can. Figured that out. Then you had 2 pickups a week with no cart and 2 pickups per week with a cart. On each one of these 4 proposals that had to be submitted as part of the overall RFP, Richard's disposal came in significantly lower than the other 2 on each count. For instance, 1 pickup per week with no cart. You had Environmental Services, who was asking $651,000 for the year, or for the month. And then Richard's disposal was $585 versus $651. And then, of course, you had Waste Management, who asked for $753. So the difference is $100,000 difference between number 1 and number 2, and a couple of $100,000 on the other one, Waste Management. Then, if you look at 2 pickups per week with a cart, 2 pickups, because that's what the final agreement with Richards was. It would be 2 pickups a week. So if you have one with a cart, both Waste Management and FCC Environmental wanted over $1 million a month. Over $1 million a month. Richard's disposal was asking $756,000 a month. But the one that was agreed to apparently in the negotiation with the mayor's office and Richard is 2 pickups per week with no cart. That means you can provide your own container. FCC wanted right at $1 million with $945,856. Waste Management asked $858,000. Now this is per month. And then Richard's disposal asked for $652,000 per month. Now, if you run a household we'll just say you're looking to buy a house. If you have a difference of $100,000, you probably gonna look very, very seriously at the lower priced house, with all other things being equal. Just makes good financial sense. Now, as you know, the Richards emergency contract expired on March 31st. So as of April 1, there has been no company willing to pick up or able or will do the trash in the city of Jackson, Mississippi, your capital city. The question was asked of FCC Environmental, and this letter was apparently provided to Mr. Riley at the Clarion Ledger, that indicated the city had reached out to both FCC and Waste Management to say, will your previous quotes be valid if we consider you for the contract? FCC responded by saying, because of changing market values, it would likely be more than what had originally been submitted. Waste Management stated simply that their quotes would not be valid. Meanwhile, Richard's Disposal said they would honor its previous quotes. Now, it is my understanding that when these bids were submitted back in 2021, it was for a multi-year contract. So even though there may have been changes in market values and all of that, why now would you try to hold the city hostage and say that your quotes aren't valid and you want to increase the price? And we're going to go back a little bit while we are having this discussion and talk about how we got to where we are with all of this. Because the mayor submitted a proposed contract to the city council. He tried to have a meeting on like April 30th, I believe, and he didn't have a quorum, so they couldn't even vote on it, couldn't even discuss it. There was another meeting called on April 1. There was a quorum. You had 3 city council members who voted no on Richard's Disposal to continue for a 6-month period. That's what I understand maybe the time frame it would require to do another RFP. Then you had those 3 who voted no. You had 3 who voted yes. And Councilman Stokes decided to abstain. Don't know why he abstained. He had been one of the no's. So I guess, but an abstention is tantamount to a no, because whatever the motion was, it would have failed. You got 3 for it, 3 against it. And the 3 who are against it are Ashby Foote, Aaron Banks, and who's the third person? Hartley. Those 3 are against it. But nobody has been able to share with me a sensible reason of why they are against it. The bid is lower. He has hired Jacksonians to do the work. He has an office in Jackson. Granted, his business is out of another state. But there was a blind bid process, y'all. A blind bid process where the people who were reviewing the bid responses didn't know who was who when they were rating them. And Richard's Disposal came out on top. We're going to have to talk about this a little bit more when we come back.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide healthy food, introduce assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Welcome to the JMMF's Culinary Kitchen in partnership with Footprint Farms, the Farmers' Hands Markets, and funded in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, sponsored by Humana. I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community. Our menu includes salads made from collards, kale and spring mix varieties, fresh vegetarian soups, and fresh juice elixirs made daily. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. And remember, what you put in your body is just as important as what you put on your body. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey, we're back, and you can catch Unmuted on CWTV and also on YouTube at the Footprint Farms station. So you can find us there, and if you need to communicate with us, you can go to Unmuted at myyahoo.com. Just wanted to make sure you know how to get to us, and you can look at this show or any of the other previous Unmuted shows on YouTube at any time by going to CWU TV or to YouTube and put in Footprint Farms MS. All right, now the information that I have regarding the City of Jackson's waste management issue, because it's truly what is that smell? The whole process after the bid had come in, and now people know who we have with a name, not just a number, on a blind bid process where it's been evaluated. People have responded and apparently complied with everything that had been requested in that RFP. Now it's not good enough, or the number one person is not good enough to get a vote of yes from the city council. Because is it because it's not our friend? And I'm not a gossiper, but in this situation, I just want to share what the street talk is on why Richard's disposal is unacceptable to many of the council members. And these are not my words. These are not my statements. These are just comments off the street. So, not trying to slander anybody, but what is that I smell? The word on the street is that there are those members, decision makers, who are missing their under the table kickbacks. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just telling you what some of the citizens of Jackson are saying. Because if someone has gone through the whole process, think about you yourself. If you have gone through a process that is supposed to be objective and not subjective, you have done everything you've been asked to do. You submitted your paperwork, you submitted all your qualifications, you've provided your bond information and everything, but it's still not good enough because there's someone or several someones out there who want their friend to be in that position. And it's all right to want your friend. But, that's why we have laws, equality laws, particularly in hiring. And while this is a contract, you had an objective process by which you would have selected the person who came out on top. And that is not here. And I truly admire the owner of Richard's Disposal, because the only time he has sued or threatened to sue was when he had worked for several months and hadn't gotten paid. But the people who was picking up the trash still needed to be paid, had to be paid. So he wanted his back pay so that he could pay those folks since he had entered into that emergency contract. Now, if Mr. Richards truly was a non-tolerant person, I'm trying to be kind here, he would have sued the city of Jackson, because what is your valid reason for not awarding the contract to Richards Disposal when we came out on top? And you told them what they were going to be looking at, and the highest rating went to cost. Now, there was some other areas. One, the technical proposals, that was innovative approaches to encourage and maintain a sustainable solid waste system. That went into the 30% that went to the technical proposal. That weighted 10%. Plan for performing the required services. Well, Richards has been doing it. And what are the complaints that you have received from the citizens? That's 20%. So apparently they are performing the required services. That makes up that 30% for the technical proposal. Service providers presentation interview. So all of the folk who submitted a bid had to come in and make a presentation at some point. That was 25%. They wanted to know about the experience in providing similar services. That was 10%. And I understand Richards provides services either to the whole city or to part of New Orleans, which is much bigger than Jackson. The qualifications and key personnel, 10%. And your references, 5%. And once again, the fee proposal, 35%. Richards apparently surpassed the competition in those areas. So why is it that we don't want him to have the contract? Help me. And now this was for a multi-year, as we talked about. The mayor on April 1, or he had prepared it on the 30th of March, he requested an order to authorize the mayor to execute a contract and related documents with Richards Disposal to provide solid waste collection and hauling services for 6 years, commencing on April 1, with 4 one-year extensions. And generally, this is par for the course on these kinds of contracts, because it takes a lot of money to run those dump trucks, those garbage trucks. And you got people and all of that. So this would have been a 6-year term with 4 one-year extensions. That means that you would have known you're going to be here for at least 2 years, and then you got to start working on those extensions. And anybody who's in business knows that you haven't done a good job, that you haven't met the requirements, that people are always complaining, then you probably won't get those extensions. But those are optional, and you don't have to go back through the bid process if you're doing a good job. I don't know about people who are watching or listening, but how, if there were complaints, we would have been reading about them in the newspaper. They would have been bringing people to City Hall to speak from the floor about the horrible job, but we haven't heard that. And the people, the citizens of Jackson, really don't care in the long run who picks up the trash, as long as somebody picks up the trash. Now, you can go online to the City of Jackson, and on that April 1 meeting, I believe it is, you can pull the actual data that the mayor submitted to them. He listed the whole history of how we have gotten to where we are. And any way you cook it, if you want to bake it, if you want to fry it, Richards has complied with everything that they have asked of a vendor to do. Now, the city council, there was also an attempt to say, well, we need to do another RFP. The mayor submitted a RFP to the city council and asked them to provide feedback. What do you want in here? What you want to come out, and that kind of thing. Well, they went for well over a month, made no recommendations on it. And then when the mayor brought it back so that they could get the ball rolling, then they wanted to make all these changes. That is no way to run a business or a government. No way. You know, when you got the proposal, then was the time to make those recommendations for changes, especially if you were really concerned about having an RFP and getting bids from individuals that you felt you could support. I still don't know what the issue is and why the city council is so staunchly opposed to actually approving the contract for Richards to provide the services. Is it because they don't like the mayor? Is it because one or more are trying to prepare themselves to run for this office? Because this is no way to treat the citizens of the capital city. They need their trash picked up. And Richards has said, if you want me to provide a cart, a trash can, in addition to picking up the trash, I can do that. But it's going to cost you a little bit more because I've got to buy all of these trash cans. But the people will get to keep them. And then at the end of the contract, the city will own the trash cans. They've even said if somebody gets one stolen or whatever, they'll replace it at the cost that they paid, not trying to upcharge the citizens or anything of that nature. Right now, the citizens need relief. You know, this has pushed the water situation out of the headlines because the people who are personally taking responsibility for picking up the trash going to run out of patience if there is not something that is done soon. I understand that there are some people who may be paying $10 or $15 to somebody in the community, but that's going to get old. The citizens of Jackson need a contract. A lot going on. You're listening to Unmuted.